Hi everyone, welcome back. Today's tutorial is a highly requested video on how I blend my eyeshadows. I always try to be as detailed as possible in my tutorials. That way it could be easy for you guys to replicate any of my eye looks. I hope that this video will be informative and helpful. So let's go ahead and get this tutorial started. So to start, I am going to take my Sedona Lace EB09 brush and prime my eyelids. This is something that is personal preference. You can either use your fingers or use a brush for your eye base application. I prefer to use a brush just simply because I feel like it just spreads a lot more easier this way, and I just get a really nice even coat. Now what I'm going to do is take a blending brush, and again the colors that I'm going to be using for this blending demonstration, it's just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to take a blending brush now, and this is my Crown Pointed Deluxe Crease Brush. I very lightly dipped my brush into a soft brown color, and what you want to do, and I'm holding a mirror, you want to make sure that you're looking straight onto your mirror. That way you see where your crease is located. And for me, my eyelids are small, so I always go above my crease and I swirl very soft circular motions on the outer corner of the eye. And once I start going towards the inner corner, I start doing little side-by-side strokes very softly all the way to the inner corner. Then I start moving my brush a little bit faster, and then circular motions. You don't want to have your brush look like that, because then what you're doing is not blending, you're just kind of smudging the color everywhere. And how I hold my brush is just like this, like I would a pen, but instead of holding it really close to the ferrule, I move it as close to the edge as possible. That way you get the lightest application and your blending will be super soft. And what you want to do is just barely touch your skin. You want to be very gentle. So when you're blending, what you want to do is have your brush look like it's barely touching your skin, and then when you're ready to blend, you want to very lightly have it at an angle and start using the same method. Very soft. I'm going to have my brush at an angle and very softly start blending to make sure that this transition becomes as transparent as possible. Longer strokes, very softly, without having to smush your brush looking very crazy looking like that, just very gently. And you can see how the color just starts to diminish. Just like that. And that is how I apply and blend my transition color. And now I'm going to move on to the color for the eyelid. For my eyelid application, I'm now just going to take my eyeshadow brush, and this is a Smashbox number 32. And what I like to do is I always apply this in patting motions, and what this does is it helps from any fallout getting onto your makeup. I like to apply my makeup first, and I just pat this on, little short strokes, and then start moving a little bit faster, patting. And since my lids are small, I'm going to take it a little bit above the crease. And just like that. And usually what I do, all the brushes that I use for a certain eye look, I start setting them aside. That way if I need to retouch up the same colors, I will reach for them. Now what I'm going to do is add a second color for my crease to deposit a second shade right underneath your transition color, but have it as a crease color. I definitely use a different brush. Transition, you never want to mix that with any of the other colors that you are going to apply to your eyes. You'd want to keep that exclusively for your transition. Now I'm just taking another blending brush, and this one is one that I purchased on eBay. It's just a fluffy, semi-dense brush, and I'm going to just darker purple eye color. I am going to start applying this right above this lighter purple that we applied. And I'm just doing a little short strokes back and forth. So I'm just going to softly, same method as the application of the transition, just soft little back and forth strokes, taking it to the center of the eye. And unlike the transition, I'm not going to do any circular motions, at least not yet. First, I want to see how deep I want this shade. You always want to start off little by little because it's easier to blend, and just back and forth till you reach the intensity that you like. Now all I'm simply going to do is go back in with that same brush that we used to apply our transition. And just like that, now what I'm going to do is move on to the color for our outer corner or our outer V. Taking a flat shader brush, this is from Crown and it's part of the HD collection. This is the type of brush that I like to start off with to form the outer V shape of our eye. And what I do is I take the brush, let me get my mirror, and I start from the outer corner at an angle, and I gently press with a little bit of a darker outer V corner eyeshadow that I'm going to use, and for this I'm using a matte black, and then I start dragging it in to the eyelid. So it's very softly, and then you can build up the intensity. And by doing this with the flat shader brush, it eliminates a really messy look at the end of your eye. I'm continuing to keep my brush at an angle, doing up short little strokes, and then I start moving a little bit faster, angling my brush. And it depends how far in you want to take it. I usually like to just focus this color right at the outer corner. Now I'm just going to simply switch my brush. This is my favorite synthetic Crown brush. It's just perfect. I love it. Now if you want to just eliminate this last step from using a flat shader brush and using this, it's completely fine. That is optional. And I'm going to just start doing little soft circular motions very lightly on the outer corner of the eye, depositing some more of that black eyeshadow. Then I'm going to lightly start bringing it in. Going up, but staying underneath that transition color, and just building your outer corner color up. And we are going to blend using another clean brush. It's very important to use different brushes when you do any of your final blends. Just like that for now. Just switching over to a clean blending brush, and this one is a purchase from eBay. And I'm going to start right at the outer corner, and because this is a clean brush, all we're doing is just diminishing any harsh lines. And the way that I like to blend is just soft circular motions. As you guys have already noticed, I just find that it is the easiest way to diminish harsh lines. Very soft, super gentle. And if you take it a little bit too high and it goes into your transition, you can just go over it one more time with your transition brush. Pretty much what you're looking for when you're blending is that there isn't any harsh lines and that everything is just blending seamlessly. It is very important. And if you happen to just blend out another color, like for instance the outer corner, if it gets too blended out, you can just go back in and deposit it again one more time. but it's very important to use clean brushes. That way your colors do not look muddy. Now I'm just taking my Smashbox definer brush number 15 and I'm just redepositing that black shade. And I love this brush because it has a tiny little point. I'm just doing little soft circular motions, reapplying that black color. And you don't even need to do another final blend. You just, if you barely touch your skin, then you will be able to get away without having to grab another brush. This is optional. Taking my Sedona Lace EB09 brush, I'm pretty much just going to move side by side at an angle. As you guys can see how I have my brush, just kind of softly pressing it. And I'm going to do little short back and forth strokes, or side by side. Then I start moving faster. And just like that. At this point, you're probably wondering, how many brushes have I used? I used 3 brushes. One was for our transition. The second was for the deeper shade of purple that I used underneath our transition and above our crease. And then I used a separate brush that is clean to blend out everything together. Also, I used one eyeshadow brush, the brow bone brush. Also used the little blending brush right at the outer corner to blend out the black, as well as, with the exception of these 2 optional brushes, which can be eliminated if you want to just opt out of using the shader brush to form your outer V, and just simply use a tiny little brush and just start circular motioning that outer V corner, and then you can clean up the edge. But the reason why I like using a flat shader brush, as you can see, it kind of already eliminates that step of having to sharpen out that outer corner with concealer or having to use a tape method, which I do not like to do. So this is a total of about 7 brushes, and I'm going to add an 8th because I'm not finished. I need to add a color for the inner corner of our eye. So what I'm going to do is pat this color right at the inner corner of the eye, and I'm going to just lightly line it up. Just like that. And so what I do is just I pat it right at the inner corner going up, and the reason why I like doing this is because it really wakens up the eye and it just makes you look awake and alert, and I love it. But you can choose to opt out of adding it right at the inner corner as much as I do. I love the effect. It is optional, and because we have already finished with our application of blending, all you have to do is just kind of like sweep it over. And this is the technique that I use and I absolutely love. Also, what you can do is go back in with that eyeshadow brush and just reapply that purple at the center of your eyelid padding. And this is your blending technique for when you are using these colors that you're splashing over. If you need to reapply, just pat it on. You don't need to go back in and repeat any blending steps. You just pat it on. Just like that. And as you guys can see, it's not really hard to do. It looks hard, but it's not. It is super easy. And for the lower lash line, what I am going to do is just simply apply the purple from the inner corner all the way to the outer corner. And yes, I'm going to show this step because it has been requested as well. And for that, I am going to use my smudger brush. So what are we on? The 9th brush, I think. And I'm going to grab that light purple color again. And I'm taking the smudger brush, and it is from Crown Brush as well, and it's a chisel shader brush. And I'm going to just start from the outer corner, pressing very lightly, taking it all the way to the inner corner. Make sure I connect it with that outer V corner that we shaped. That way it doesn't look butchered, and back and forth very softly till your eye looks just like that. And I also wanted to show you guys how I clean up the edge. For me, the edge is perfectly fine, but if you want a more sharper edge on the outer corner of your eye, is you can take a concealer brush, and the one I'm going to use is a Smashbox number 5 brush, and I am not a rep, or am I sponsored by Smashbox? That has been asked before. Not have a concealer brush that looks like this, then you can use a foundation brush that is thin, and this is one that I have, has a little point to it, does not have to have a point, and all you simply do is apply it to a concealer that you are going to use that matches what you already have used to brighten your under eye area. And you just want to lightly sweep, very lightly, just like that. And be patient, take your time. And then what I do is I get my powder, and for this I'm going to use my Milani Multitasker in Light. And I'm going to take a sponge and just lightly press and follow that shape. Patting very lightly, especially if you suffer from puffy eyes like I do, and you don't want to be so harsh or rough around this eye area. So I'm just patting it, and that is how I clean up the edge of the eye. This is what the final look looks like. Everything is blended. And for those of you who are probably saying that's way too many brushes for me to use, I don't have the time to utilize that many brushes, I have you covered. I'm going to show you guys another way on how you can cut back on a few brushes and do the same look, and it will turn out just as fine. So number one, you definitely need to start off with a blending brush. That is your essential brush for your transition, and you can either use this brush that looks like this, and this is my Crown Blending Deluxe Crease Brush, or you can use a Coastal Scents brush. So I'm going to go ahead and start by grabbing that same soft brown color,